Oh, what happens? What happens if you give a Mormon that has never tried drugs, never tried alcohol, not even a sip of coffee, nothing? What happens if you give them ayahuasca, you ask? Let me tell you, here's what happens. We're diving deep into it because it was absolutely crazy. I've got a whole thing of questions that people have asked. We're just going to go by it one by one. But the first thing is, how did you hear about ayahuasca and what drew you to it? So let me give you the backstory. I was born and raised Mormon, okay? Christian religion, very focused on Jesus Christ. I wanted to bring my love for the world. I wanted to serve the world. I wanted to serve Jesus. You know, many people have heard of like the Book of Mormon musical with these missionaries. I served a mission for 2 years, very much was involved with all of that. So during that time, I also am researching a lot of different things. I like to learn about a lot of different things, and I keep hearing about ayahuasca and where it's like they're heroin addicts for like 15 years, and then they go into the Amazonian rainforest and they take this substance and they're healed. People with severe PTSD, you know, same thing. People with yada, yada, yada. And so it was super fascinating. I was always fascinating with learning about it, but because of how I was raised, I also very much thought like, hey, this is just opening yourself up to Satan or opening yourself up to evil forces that are going to get you. So it was never something beyond like an interest, but it was always in the back of my mind. To go through my story incredibly quickly, I studied finance and economics. I was a finance bro. I made a ton of money in crypto and in the stock market and retired my family in my 20s. Then I decided to build a tech company to make it easier for people to learn how to invest. We raised a ton of money, a lot of amazing things happened, and ultimately it didn't end up working out. I put my capital into that company, really trying to keep it afloat. It didn't work out, lost everything, felt like a failure, felt like I failed my friends, my family, my wife, my kids, everything. And I'm not like a super depressive person, but I was in the craziest funk. And it got to the point where I was like, I need to do something or, you know, like not a good headspace. And so I kept feeling this pull. Now I understand it's ayahuasca calling you, saying like, all right, it's time. And, you know, I went to my wife and I was like, hey, I think I want to do this, you know, and I think she could tell the state that I was in because it's insane that she said yes. And she would even say that. And it just ended up working out. And so I had heard about ayahuasca through many different podcasts, other people's experiences, but ultimately I just felt this pull and this call. I found a couple of places online. I talked to a few of them, and the one that resonated the most was the one that I went with. And it was the most terrifying commitment I had ever done. It was so out of my comfort zone, and it completely changed everything. But, all right, how did time feel? Did it slow, stop, or dissolve? Okay, so when you're on ayahuasca, you lose all perception of time, and there were definitely points throughout the experience where I was outside of time and how we perceive it, like past, present, future. It was all existing. I was just taking it all in. It was actually incredibly overwhelming because there's just so much data, so much energy. It's all encompassing, all around you, all the time. And that was pretty wild. It definitely changed my perception on a lot of different things. Let's see. What emotional wounds or trauma did Aya heal? Oh, this is a good one. So I ended up taking, you know, obviously sitting with ayahuasca. And I don't know why I had to retell you that. That's why we're here. So what emotional wounds, trauma did Aya heal? So one thing I didn't realize was, so I went because I was super depressed, right? I just did not see the light in life anymore. I did not see a purpose, and I thought I had failed. And one of the things that the medicine taught me about myself is there was one aspect where I got up from where I was and I went into the bathroom and I was looking in the mirror and I saw myself in the mirror and I just had so much hatred. I had so much disgust. It was just like, I hate this guy. He is the worst. He is such a failure. All of these things. And I just felt such an immense, he sucks. He sucks. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. And I kept saying in the mirror, I was just like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. And what ayahuasca taught me, because ayahuasca is a very like circular teacher, I'll talk a little bit more about that. A lot of the lessons take you on these massive loops and then back to the beginning, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's how it all comes together. But what I saw was this is how I had been treating myself my entire life. That I was this beautiful divine being, but because of my conditioning, my programming, you're told like you're here, but you need to be here to be good enough. You're here, but if you do this, this, and this, then you can prove that you're good enough. All of that just lent to this, I don't know, self-hatred. And so one of the biggest traumas that it brought up was just like this negative thought, but I wasn't a negative person before then, or at least I thought I wasn't, but I held myself to such a high standard and had such high expectations that there was no winning. Like this character that I'm playing, there was no winning for him ever because it was never enough. It was never going to be enough. And so Mama Aya just kind of like put her arms around me and gave me the experience where it's like, you are enough as you are. You are enough because of who and what you are. You came and you were born enough. You are living, and through the ups and the downs, it is always enough. And you will die enough. You can never become more than what you are because you're enough. And it was just the most incredible experience spent with truly my mother, right? That divine feminine. And just seeing what she saw in me, and it kind of flipped something where I was like, oh my gosh, why am I not seeing this in that way? And so that was really unexpected. I did not think that was going to happen, nor was it my intention, nor did I think I struggled with like self-doubt or self-deprecation, but it was something that came up. Did you gain enlightenment, or is ayahuasca a path to enlightenment? So I think ayahuasca is an incredible, incredible tool to serve you in your consciousness. And what it does is it allows you to access your subconscious mind. It allows you to access all of these things that you might be harboring. Some people say it's doing 10 years of therapy in one night. And it's insane. It's the depth that you can go into. It's like locking yourself in a room and throwing away the lock. And it's just like, we have to face this. And I think through those things, you tap into a very high vibration of unity, of love with everything. The separation kind of dissolves, or at least for me it did. And so what I think is that is an experience of an enlightened state. But ayahuasca, obviously, it doesn't give it to you. You get a taste, you see the things that are holding you back, but ultimately it's up to you to apply, to integrate the teachings, the things that you receive, and to take the path to withhold that state on your own. And so I don't think it's a path to enlightenment. I also think like some people can kind of get caught up on using the medicine to like maybe bypass their own journey. I'm not going to say any judgments. You ultimately know for you what journey you're on. For me and my journey, there was kind of this resounding, well, I felt this pull where it's like, go back, go back, go back. But I also knew it's like, no, this is a tool that, showed me the way, but ultimately I have to take the way. And so that's how I kind of process it. Did it show you anything about the nature of reality? Yeah, 1000%. Like, it's crazy because in that state, you realize how unreal all of this is. You go to a place that is the true real. It is more real, and you're just like, nothing is real. Everything in reality, you're like, oh my gosh, nothing is real. And it's really hard to like distill down into words, because words are by far the least impactful way of communication. Like, it's crazy because how you communicate within these states, it's not through words. It is like things coming to you, and it's like you experience all of the knowledge that is coming in. You feel it, you taste it, you see it. It's just like a total body thing. And like that experience transcends this reality that we're in. And so absolutely, there's a lot of things that I saw about the nature of reality and just how malleable this reality is. And that was wild. It was really cool. Did you purge, vomit, shaking, or crying? I did purge. So most people with ayahuasca, it is like a physical and spiritual experience. She is going to cleanse the physical and then she's going to cleanse the spiritual. And so like people run into like purging beforehand where it's like vomiting, diarrhea, different things like that. And then they have this like spiritual experience where their vessel is clean enough that they can take it in. There's a medicine that's called combo, which is like the poison from a poison frog. And what a shaman will do is they will burn 2 holes or 3 holes on the epidermis of your skin and they'll put the poison on. And that was a crazy experience where it kind of clears things out. And so I opted to do that before I did ayahuasca so that I wouldn't purge as much. And then when I took the medicine, I didn't have any until after the experience. Like my experience was no purging, kind of like just being transported into just another dimension, another realm. It was unbelievable. And at the end of my experience, then I started puking into my bucket, and that was kind of like the end. But it really just kind of depends on you. But like, yes, purging is part of it. What emotions surfaced during the ceremony? So that self-hatred was a huge emotion that emerged, and I saw how what I had viewed as spiritual progression was something to be forced. I'm here, I need to go here. I have to work at it. I have to work harder at it. And what I realized that it was actually my emotions that, you know, it's like I'm already here, but my emotions, the way I talk to myself, the way I suppress myself, I push myself down to here. But this is my natural state. And so a ton of those emotions, there was traumas from childhood that I didn't even think were traumas. There were things that apparently left a massive imprint on me that I didn't even realize. They weren't things that I thought about. And then on ayahuasca, I could sit with it and it was like, wow, that really hurt me. That really changed, you know, that damaged my inner child. That took a part of my soul and put me on a different trajectory where now I'm going to be a little bit more closed off instead of open. And so many things surface, like things that you won't even realize or think are an issue that you've never even thought about might come up. Happened for me. What's the one thing about Aya that people don't understand? I think there's a ton of people that talk about it that don't have experience with it. You know, like I think it was like Jordan Peterson, someone was asking about like psychedelics or ayahuasca, and he said like, be wary of knowledge you receive without working for it. And it's like, yeah, that's a cool quote, but you know nothing of what you're talking about. To say this is receiving knowledge that you don't work for, it's just like, yeah, you don't get the experience. You don't understand. So just kindly, please zip the lips. I think there's a lot of people who don't have experience or don't know what they're talking about that like to give opinions. And you hear a lot of people talking about like, and this is like on things good or bad with it, right? People saying it's demonic, that it's satanic, and obviously they have no experience with it. And then there's the other side of people saying it's like the cure-all, it's amazing, like nothing ever goes wrong. That's also incorrect. Like it is a spectrum just like anything else. There is a light and a shadow. There are shamans out there that are truly serving the medicine from a place of wanting humanity to heal. There's also shamans that use it to take advantage of people. And so it's something that you have to really be protective of yourself. I think the other important thing is not everybody is a good candidate for it. You know, you really have to be aware of the mental state that you're in, whether you want to put in the work, because if you cannot release to the experience, if you cannot give into it, you're stuck in it. You're stuck in it. And ayahuasca is going to shake you and rattle you to the point where you can just completely release and completely give in. And anybody that's done it knows what I'm talking about. I went into it completely released, and so I had only positive things. But I've also heard about people having and experiencing things that really shake them to the point that they released, and then the teachings came in. And so it was for their ultimate good, but it wasn't something where it's like, it's all light, rainbows, butterflies. No, like it's, she's gonna get you to listen, and so you need to be willing to listen. Let's see, how do you integrate lessons from the ceremony into everyday life? Oh my gosh, that's the biggest piece. Like, you know, the experience on it, you know, you experience magic, you experience the divine within yourself, outside of yourself. You can experience unity with everything. It is beautiful, it's amazing. But if you don't integrate, it means nothing. Like, it's just like, cool, you just took a trip. What are you doing with it? And so there's a lot of things that come into my everyday life, but one of the most important things that was given to me, just like spoken directly to my soul, was there was a lot of times in the past where I would like second guess myself, or my rational mind would come in and explain things away. And basically, I just understood that, she told me, your heart always knows truth. In every scenario, in every situation, your heart knows. And so if you feel chaotic, slow things down, quiet the noise, tap into the heart, and it's going to lead you. And that one thing has changed my life. And that's probably the ultimate integration, where as I'm on this journey, as I've had these expansions, as I've integrated and seen insane growth, there's a lot of times where storms still come in, and it's just slow it down, tap into the heart, and the heart always knows, and it's amazing. And so daily integration, that's the biggest piece. Did you communicate with entities or spirits? Yes. And I think an argument can be made that these entities or spirits are actually like a projection from you, so that you can like understand the information that you need to receive. And so a lot of people, the entities that they see, I think, is actually them creating them so that they can have a conversation essentially with parts of themselves. And I didn't necessarily have anything like that. I had an incredible experience with the divine that is sacred to me, that it's for me, and I'll just leave it at that. But there were also experiences where I remember looking out the window and seeing this massive oak tree and communicating with the oak tree. And it was crazy. And I'm just like, is this real? And it's just like, yeah, this is real, And like, receiving wisdom from that tree and the knowledge that it has, and like the things that it's seen. And it was just so beautiful. And I could see it breathing, and like the energy, and just felt this connectedness to it and to nature. And so that was really cool. That was a big one for me. How do you prepare? What is the best practice to set an intention? So anytime you're dealing with things like this, it always comes down to intention. It always comes down to what is your mindset, because again, it is a spectrum. There is a light and a shadow to everything. There is no guarantees. And so before you partake in ayahuasca, they recommend a dieta, which is a diet that you're supposed to follow. And I think that is just as much about spiritual preparation as it is about physical preparation. And it's all about sacrifice, preparing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally for what you are going through, and even like taking something essentially to the altar, saying, I'm giving this up. Here's the experience that I would like. Now, my intention was to have the experience that I needed to have, and it was not anything what I expected. But if you go into it without an intention, or like, hey, we'll see, you're opening yourself up to a lot. And so the intention that you put behind it truly does control the experience that you have. This goes with all psychedelic medicines. Setting, and intention is everything. And so super important. Great question. If you could describe ayahuasca in one sentence, what would it be? I would just do one word: connection. I think it's a great way to connect with yourself. It's a great way to connect with others. It's a great way to connect with collective consciousness, with all of creation. And so I think that potential's there. But again, I think it ultimately comes down to your intention, your mindset, and what you are doing with it, because it can also be abused, and it can actually be a detrimental thing that keeps you from becoming who you're supposed to become. And so I would say the sentence, I guess, is it depends. But assuming that, all boxes are clicked as far as setting, intention, preparation, all of that, then it's connection. So great sentence. I know. You're welcome. Did you feel fear? How did you navigate it? Yeah, I felt a ton of fear before I did it. Obviously, I was born into a very Christian perspective. And so anything that was outside of my understanding was automatically deemed as satanic or demonic, right? Because I didn't understand it. And there was a lot of fear before I partook in ayahuasca that I was opening myself up to Satan, to darkness, to these evil entities. And so what I did was, I took everything very seriously. And as I was taking the medicine, I just said a prayer for me where it was just like, all right, God, Jesus, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, I need you to protect me. And I trust that you're going to protect me. And so, like, if it's not meant to happen, make it so it doesn't work, because I know you're all powerful. I do not want to open myself up. I do not want to enter into any of these things. Again, that's part of like intention. And so what I would say is, if you do feel fearful, just trust that the universe has your back, and then speak that out into existence. Create a space of safety for yourself, and then you will be safe. And just trust that you'll be safe, and that everything that you're going to go through is going to be for your highest good, so there's nothing to fear. But you're going to go into it. Can ayahuasca show you the future? Yeah, past, present, future all exist in the now. I think one of the issues about the future is there are infinite timelines. There's like infinite possibilities, right? People talk about their various timelines, and you have a highest timeline. So I think what ayahuasca shows you is you and your potential. There was a massive shift that was shown for me, right? I was this tech bro, finance bro, did all these things, partook in ayahuasca, and she was like, guess what? This is your initiation. You did not come here to do those things. This is who you are. This is your highest timeline. Here is who you came to be, and now is the time to step up into that. And so I think it's kind of like a little nuanced answer, because there is no one future that is set in stone, but all of us have a highest timeline, and the goal is to anchor that highest timeline here and kind of converge the timelines into a collective highest timeline. People say it's evil. What do you think? 100% not evil. But I think there's people who have like not the best intentions that use it. I think there's a lot of different like energies that you have to be aware of. But saying the medicine is evil, I think, is just like bypassing responsibility. It's not evil, but that also doesn't mean that it's 100% like good and divine, because again, all of these energies are mixing in. There's people who have good intentions. There's people that want to abuse you emotionally, sexually, like you need to be aware of that. You need to protect your energy. In those states, your vessel is so clean that you are exposed to all of the energies around you. And so I would say it's very important, the people that you're with, who you're with, are they trained in it? How are they trained in it? How do they work with the medicine? Is it something that you will feel comfortable in? All of that goes into creating a good experience for you, and something that will be helpful instead of harmful. But to say it's evil, no, it's not evil, not at all. Can you describe the journey? What was it like? No, you can't describe the journey. It was freaking insane is what it was like. For me, at least with mine, I tend to synthesize things, like my body metabolizes, I guess is the better word, medicines very, very quickly. And so it was funny because shaman's like, hey, we recommend everybody take 2 cups, but if you want to stop at 1, that's fine. I took 2. Then the person that was serving came over and was like, I feel like you need a 3rd, so I took a 3rd. And then they came over and like, I feel like you need a 4th, so I took a 4th. And then I sat there and I was like, you know what? I feel like I need a 5th. And so I went and got a 5th. It was crazy. I think the experience started at like 8 o'clock. Most people ended their experience at like 2 or 3 a.m. and I went till like 10 a.m. in the morning, and it was the experience I needed to have. But I remember taking it, laying down, and just being like, is it going to kick in? Is it going to kick in? It wasn't kicking in. And I'm just like, this doesn't work. Or I'm like, you know what? This is God and Jesus protecting me. This is evil. I'm not supposed to do it. And then next thing I know, I woke up in a dream world covered in slobber and spit, and like snot was coming out of my nose, and I was sweating because I was purging all of this. And I was just like, where am I? Who am I? and then just had access to all of this information that I now realize is actually the information that was within me. And it was chaos and it was crazy. And I fought it for so long. I'm like, this is too much. This is too much. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I did that for what felt like an hour, although I don't have any concept of time. And I remember, just feeling this kind of presence being like, look up, it's time to look. And I was just like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not doing it. And it was just like this kind of like patient, fatherly and motherly essence. There was a masculine and feminine component to both. And it was just like, no, it's time to look up. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, because I knew when I looked up, everything that I thought I knew was going to go completely out. And I was going to see how things truly were. And that's what happened. And like, there were 10,000 different lessons going on all at the same time. And I was like, how am I comprehending all of this? How am I understanding all of it? But it's interesting because a lot of the things that happened within ayahuasca and a lot of the information that I realized I contained within myself, talk about it in my content. And a lot of times people are like, oh, that's just like Hinduism. Oh, in this video you're referring to Buddhism, Hermeticism, whatever. And it's just like, I haven't read any of that. I just unlocked that within me. There's just this knowing that comes from within, not from without, And obviously that exists within everyone, which is why there's these different philosophies. But it was crazy. I can't explain it. It was absolutely insane. Ayahuasca is definitely a circular teacher. It was amazing to witness these lessons where it just takes you on this massive journey, and then you go back to this like starting point, and you're like, that's how it all comes together, and it just makes sense. It's amazing. It was incredible. Are you willing to share any lessons that you learned? The biggest lessons that I learned is we tend to view growth and expansion as something we need to achieve, but that is actually your natural state. And what you need to learn how to do is to stop suppressing yourself into a small state, because that is not your natural state. That's why you experience chaos. That's why you experience a storm of emotions. It is because you are containing yourself in a box that you're not meant to be in, and you just need to get rid of the box. And that expansion happens naturally because it is you. The other most powerful lesson I learned is your heart, your intuition always knows. It always knows. It always knows. It is your bullshit meter. So if you tap into it, it will always lead you where you're supposed to go. And then there were some pretty massive lessons about good and bad, what we perceive as good versus evil, that helped me understand a lot of how and why this world is the way that it is, and what we are supposed to do and what I am supposed to do. But yeah, that's a good one. People say it is therapy. Is it? I think it is incredibly therapeutic, and it's going to give you essentially full access into your subconscious. Like, you are going to see traumas, you're going to see ways that you hold yourself back, and you're going to have to stand in the room, essentially in this cage match, where it's like you need to, well, not a cage match because you're not fighting it, you just need to witness it and learn from it. And so I think in that way it is, but I think most people would benefit after these things, having some form of like integration coach, teacher, therapist that they can talk through these things with, because again, really it's just unlocking and showing you your potential, but it's still ultimately up to you to take the path to embody that potential. How do I know it's right for me? If you feel the call and if you feel interested, and if it's something where it keeps coming back to you, that is probably Aya calling out to you saying like, hey, it's time, it's time. And so what I would say is, like, if you feel that, just like explore it, embrace it, yeah, that's, you'll know inside. You're not going to know 100%. You're not going to be like, I have to do this now. But there's probably going to be something where it's like, it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. It's coming back for a reason. That loop is returning back for a reason. It's calling you. So you be fearless, answer the call. It'll be for your good. Bad trips, did you have one? I did not have a bad trip, but I know people who have. Everyone that I've talked to, it ultimately ended up being a good trip, or it ended up being a powerful lesson they needed to go through. I had a friend who really had a dark experience to realize that darkness comes from within. And that darkness that he experienced was incredibly scary, but then it was necessary as he came around in the loop to realize, wait a second, this is me. Okay, so there's nothing to be afraid of. And so, it really comes down to, again, set and setting, but I didn't have a bad experience, but I know that there's people where they had to face some things that maybe they weren't ready for, or it was scary how it happened. What if I feel called but feel scared? I would just sit with that emotion, and I would ask yourself, what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? And then I would also ask, where's this call coming from? And it's just going to show you where you need to release, where you need to trust, maybe where you need to have faith, and where you need to recognize that the universe is a loving place that loves you, that wants your highest good. And so if you're being called for your highest good, you can trust that it is for your benefit and that you're ready for whatever it's going to show you. Did you feel like you encountered God's source of the universe? 1,000%. 1,000%. Full period, full stop. Yes. Yes. It was one of the most divine, sacred experiences I've ever had. Words can't even describe it. It is. It is. Like, that is how when you feel the I am, the it is the one, it is unbelievable, the experience. You can't put it into words. Do you have to go to the jungle? I don't think you have to go to the jungle, but you have to be very mindful of who is serving the medicine. You have to be very mindful because, again, your vessel is completely open. You are completely exposed to all of the different energies that are going on, and there's people that can abuse that, or there's people who aren't properly trained, and it leaves you exposed, and that can really hamper your experience. And so I would just say, listen to your intuition. You don't have to go to the jungle. You also don't have to spend insane amounts of money. Just trust that if you're going to answer the call and it's something you want to do, that the universe is going to put you on a path to find where you're supposed to go, where it's going to be the best environment for you. And so put that intention out there, speak it into existence. It's going to happen. Just trust that it will. What is the medicine teaching you right now? The medicine is teaching me right now. She's constantly reminding me, or the reminders that come back to me is where I continue to need to let go, that not everything is meant to be understood, and you don't have to understand it to embody what you are supposed to do. And so getting rid of those last pieces of fear so that I can fully embody who and what I am is kind of those things, like the reoccurring lessons that I'm dealing with right now. But what was the most unexpected thing that happened? I think communicating with the tree. I think just realizing who and what I am was the most unexpected thing. I look back on it now and it's like, how did I miss this as a child? How did I miss this in my adolescence? There were pieces there that I always recognized as me, but my conditioning, my programming led me to translate that, or I guess rationalize it into a specific lens that wasn't a true lens. And it was pretty amazing to kind of have myself revealed to myself through ayahuasca, seeing myself in a perfect state of who I am, what I'm here to do, what I came to do. And that was something I was not expecting, because I thought I knew my identity before I went in, and I did. It was just I was translating the data in a different way. And ayahuasca really showed me that, you are here for something different. Do you think visions are real or projections from the subconscious mind? Yeah, I think both. And I think one thing that's incredibly important with ayahuasca is realizing that, not everything you're seeing is for you. Not everything you're seeing is a lesson for you. Not everything has deeper meaning. And so you have to use your intuitive nature and your discernment within those states as well to see, what do I actually need to hold on to, or what could potentially be a distraction from what the real truth is, right? Because, people say the universe is going to give you what you want, but it's going to give you something that distracts you as well to see how bad you want it. And so I think when it comes to the visions, whether it's real things or projections from you, when you communicate with entities, if those are actual external entities or entities that exist within you that you're projecting outwards so that you can have a communication and you can process these things, I think it's all true. I think it is all true, and you can use your discernment for what you think is true. But anyways, that was like a fun little like deep dive. If you have other questions, I'll write them down and we can do another one. But ayahuasca truly was one of the greatest, most life-changing experiences I've ever had. But again, I just want to reiterate that that was my experience, and there's a lot of charlatans within the space. There's a lot of people who use it for money. There's a lot of people who practice with the medicine who should not be practicing with the medicine, and so you need to be careful. And the medicine is also not for everyone. It is a very powerful experience that really opens you up, and not everybody needs that. Sometimes people need, a gentler approach, but it is magic. It is magic. It is beautiful. It is amazing. One of my neighbors, she went and did it and talked about having this experience where she just saw herself in the mirror and her face had makeup on it and she was crying. She was crying because she couldn't believe that she would ever cover up something so beautiful. And she wiped off the makeup and she looked into her hands and it turned into butterflies and flew away. And that is the type of magic that happens. Like those are like powerful lessons that you get that just go so beyond words, that are so potentially beautiful. And so if you feel the call, have the courage to trust that you're ready. And if you don't feel the call, don't force it. Don't do something that you're not meant to do. You just be content with who you are, what you have. If you need something, it will call you, it will be given to you. If you don't need something, it's not going to call you, it's not going to be given. If you have it, you must need it. Therefore, you have everything you need right now. If you don't have it, you don't need it. And so if you can just trust that within yourself and create this centered, balanced perspective, if you have everything you need right now to be everything you need, you can get rid of the baggage, you can stop suppressing yourself into these little boxes, and you can allow yourself to expand into your true and natural state. One thing I do want to mention is I'm going to put all of the information up, but I'm going to be in the Netherlands over the next few months, and what is coming together at one of these centers that I am helping them out with social media and different things is they're actually flying in some shamans from Brazil. And these shamans come from incredibly powerful lineages. One of the lineages, I believe this is their first time in Europe, and so they will be holding ceremonies, one in the beginning of May and one at the end of April. I will be sitting in those ceremonies as well. And so if this is something that calls you, if you're in that area or would like to come and even, hang out, meet, whatever, I'll be there. I think it's an incredible experience. I'm going to tag them below. You can reach out to them if you have any questions, any details about anything. And, if you feel called, answer the call. It's going to be amazing. If you don't feel called, don't answer a call that isn't there. But I love you. You guys are amazing. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have additional questions, just let me know. We can talk about it more.